Hola,
Ah,
Sally.
¿cómo estás hoy?
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Sí, muy bien.
¿Sí?
Sí. Un otro día que mucho calor y húmedo aquí en Minneapolis.
¿Sí? Ya
En
subió
Denver
la temperatura de nuevo, ¿cierto?
también. Sí,
Sí.
sí.
Aquí también.
Y
Parece
más seco en Denver.
sí, aquí no hay humedad.
No,
Nunca.
no. Es mejor, es mejor. La humedad es muy fuerte. Oh, Ingrid.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Ingrid. How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
And you?
Yes, just fine.
I'm glad. Hello, Davy.
Hi, Ingrid, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, good.
We were talking about the weather in Denver, where David is, and in Minneapolis, where I am. It's hot. It's hot and humid in Minneapolis, hot and dry in Denver. How is it in Venezuela today?
It is hot too, with some raining.
Oh, some rain.
Yes.
Is this the rainy season?
No, it's very strange. Yes.
More strange weather. It's happening all over.
Yes.
Global warming.
Yes. What city are you in, Ingrid?
I live in Caracas.
You are in Caracas. Okay.
I'm gonna go get a glass of water. I think I left my cup of water up here, so I'll be right back, okay?
Okay. Excelente. Caracas. Y Caracas es una ciudad grande? ¿Una ciudad grande?
Yes, it's the capital of the country.
Uh-huh. Rafaela. I don't know if I've met Rafaela. Oh, sí. Hello, Rafaela.
Hi, Rafaela.
Hello, teacher. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Rafaela.
Hello, Sally.
How are you today?
I'm pretty well, thanks. And how about you?
Good. Yes, I am just fine.
Oh, yes, great.
Yes, every day without the virus is a good day.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
I found out that my aunt has it right now.
No. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Fine. She's okay. I guess it's not hitting her hard, but she's had a fever of like 100, 101 for like 3 weeks.
Oh my.
And she lives in Georgia. She can't get a test. They won't give her the test.
Oh, Georgia is terrible right now. It's crazy what is happening in Georgia.
It really is. It's so messed up.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. It is just such a catastrophe.
The governor refuses to mandate wearing masks.
Not only does he refuse to mandate it, he refuses to allow it.
Oh, allow it.
So
yes.
the mayor of the city of Atlanta issued an executive order to mandate masks being used in the city of Atlanta. And the way the state of Georgia's constitution is written, the governor has supreme authority. So he rejected it, and he's now suing the mayor of Atlanta. in city council in Atlanta to prevent the use of masks in the city of Atlanta, specifically suing to prevent the usage of masks.
Yes.
I would like to propose that we do something just a little bit different today, if everybody's okay with it.
Okay.
Because I'm so tired of talking about coronavirus. I really don't want to talk about coronavirus if we can avoid it today.
Right.
So I was just thinking that we seem to have a pretty consistent group here. Sally, you're pretty much here every Friday. Ingrid, I think you've been with us for like a month or so. Rafaela, you've been here with us at least once before, right?
Yes, I have tried to participate another class in this week, but I couldn't participate. I don't know why.
It gets full. You have to RSVP as soon as you see it, because I limit it to 10 people.
Okay.
That's probably why. I get emails from people all the time, and if you don't RSVP in time, you don't have a seat, because otherwise we'd have 50 people here, and it just doesn't work very well that way. So I was just thinking that instead of maybe doing like the open dialogue that we do, I have all kinds of workshops and stuff like that prepared. So I've got this one workshop that's a 5-part series. It's called 5 Easy Steps to Speak Spanish with Confidence, or to speak English with confidence. It goes both ways. And I've got a lot of really cool activities that we can do. So I was thinking that might be a good thing to do, just so there's a little bit more structure and there's a little bit of, productivity done to it. And then of course we can, save maybe the last half for open conversation or something like that. And then I was just thinking, so on the lines of doing some type of workshop or a presentation, I thought it would be a cool idea to open it up to you as well. Like if there's anything that you ever wanted to try and maybe prepare a little, 5 to 15 minute long presentation or speech or something like that you could share with the group, something that you're passionate about, something that you do for work, an idea, an essay. It could be really anything, but the idea is that you would prepare that in the language that you're trying to learn, and you could present it to us as a group, and it would give us kind of an opportunity to give you feedback, and I can kind of teach you little grammar lessons that are built in based off of the material that you're presenting on the fly. So that's just one thought too, just to kind of give, so I'm not always having to think of what to do every week. If anybody else would like to kind of present an idea to the group, I thought that would be maybe fun. I got that idea. I haven't done it in a really long time, but I went like 3 or 4 years ago. I used to go to this group called Toastmasters International.
Sí, yo también.
You went to Toastmasters?
Hace muchos años, cuando era trabajar.
Cuando estaba trabajando.
Cuando estaba trabajando, sí. Yes, it's a very good program.
Yeah. So do you, Ingrid or Rafaela, do you have Toastmasters in Venezuela or in Brazil? Do you know what that is?
No.
No?
Yes, in Brazil, I think no, don't have this program. I don't know this program, I think.
So Toastmasters is a club for professional speakers, or not necessarily you don't have to be a professional speaker, but it's a club in which people typically meet once a week, and anybody can present on a topic of interest for, like 5 to 15 minutes, just to give what Toastmasters does is also the people that are participating and listening, they also are writing constructive criticism for you, giving you feedback. They, at the group that I went to, I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but one of the big challenges for people, for public speakers, is when they pause and they make a sound like, and so they would have somebody with a little buzzer that would hit the buzzer every time you did that. If you notice, when politicians speak, they don't do that. You know, they've done a lot of training to prepare them to not make those noises. And for somebody that's listening, it can be quite uncomfortable when you're hearing somebody that's constantly, so they do that. We don't necessarily have to like hit a little buzzer every time somebody makes a mistake, but it would be an interesting thing where, you know, the native speakers are listening, and they, every time you hear somebody say something that's maybe not grammatically correct or their pronunciation isn't right, they can just take a note of it and then give the speaker some feedback going forward. So not necessarily Toastmasters, but just an opportunity for us to practice our language skills and maybe give you some extended periods of time to talk.
I have watched some videos on YouTube,
Okay.
and they are very interesting. But we don't have these shows here, sadly.
Yeah. Cool.
If I remember, each presentation had some kind of objective. Is that right, David?
Yeah,
for example, persuading someone to do something, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes.
it always had a specific topic. So it wasn't just a loose, like, I'm going to get up and tell you about the life according to David, right? Everybody was presenting on something significant, you know, a specific topic that they would have typically some type of presentation or speech prepared. I heard people talk about, you know, different like work techniques. A lot of stuff was related to like improving productivity at work. And, you know, in really any type of topic that somebody wanted to present. But this particular group I was in, it met at a hospital, and like, so it was organized by the hospital administrators. And so you would hear people presenting on topics related to hospital administration often, and things like that. So yeah, it was interesting, but I thought that might give you an interesting way to practice your language and actually prepare something, and then take advantage of this mixed group of speakers to get real feedback from native speakers on the right and the better ways to say things.
I would love to love it. I would love to make it.
Okay.
Yes, me too.
So good. Let's plan on doing, you know, I still want to have it pretty informal, you know, so you don't have to prepare something every week. But let me see here. I'm going to put in the chat my, I'll put in the chat here my contact information, my email address. I know, Ingrid, you sent me an email. I haven't had a chance to respond to it yet, but I did get it. So I'll send my email address. If you have something that you want to propose for a topic or something that you want to speak about or present on, then just send me an email to let me know that you want to do that, and we can make sure that we carve out some time for you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, cool. I like that idea.
Yes.
Well, we've got a new friend joining us. Hi, Ismar.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hi, Ismar. Welcome.
I'm sorry I'm late. I was in another meeting.
That's okay. We're just getting started and kind of talking about some new ideas for the group going forward. Since you're new to the group, can you introduce yourself to us?
Me?
Yeah, tell us what's your name. I guess you're learning English or practicing English.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
my name is Ismar. What? My name is Ismar Higueros. I'm very glad to be here to have the opportunity to practice some English with you, to learn new words, and to be more, I don't know, proficient in speaking, in sharing my thoughts. Do you know where I live? Because of my picture.
Sí.
Many of you know this place.
¿Vives,
Sally.
vives en Perú?
Oh,
¿Es Machu Picchu o no? No.
Not exactly, ma'am. No.
I was,
Mexico?
Lo siento.
thinking Mexico.
Close to Mexico.
Close.
Close to Mexico, but not Mexico.
Those look
Which
like
country said?
Mayan
yeah.
ruins. So I'm guessing what? Guatemala, Honduras?
Exactly, bingo.
Which one?
It's Guatemala.
Guatemala?
The city of Tikal. Tikal. The city of Tikal is the heart of the Mayan civilization. The very heart. The Mayan civilization spreads from the south of Mexico, all of Guatemala, the north of Honduras, the west of El Salvador. It was a civilization that, I don't know how to say this in English, that the longest or last more than 1,000 years, I think.
It lasted,
Oh, lasted. Thanks. And this is the main city is this Tikal.
Cool.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that with us.
But I don't live here, of course. I live in Guatemala City. I live in an urban, but this is from my country.
Sí.
So to kind of expand on that, Ismar, welcome to the group. So we do this every single Friday. Usually it's just an open conversation where we talk for an hour. But I was just proposing to the group that maybe for next week, 1 or 2 people could prepare either a presentation or some type of speech or some type, lead us through some type of activity for 5 to 15 minutes. But that could be a great topic to teach us about, right? The Mayan civilization. And then you prepare something to teach us in English, if that's the language that you're trying to learn, for 5 to 15 minutes, and then we can open up some dialogues around that. So that would be like one thing. We could always do that. Sally, you could prepare something in Spanish about Minnesota. I don't know.
Sí.
But yeah, so that would be something for next week if anybody wants to do that. Cool. So I wanted to share with you a little workshop material that I have prepared. So give me 1 second so I can bring this up. And it's been a long time since I've done this particular workshop, so I might be a little rusty, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so welcome. This is a workshop that I created called 5 Easy Steps to Speak Spanish with Confidence, so that even if you are really starting from zero, you can start to become conversational in 3 months or less. These concepts that I'm about to teach and go over, they apply to learning English too. So if you want to replace that with 5 easy steps to speak English with confidence, then the same thing, okay? So, just to get started here, I want to tell you a little bit about the importance of what we're about to do. Learning how to speak a new language is a mission. Languages are very complex, and in my experience, everybody is 100% capable of learning how to speak a new language like Spanish or English. But a lot of people try and they don't do it very successfully. And the reason is typically that they don't really have a good game plan. Yes, there's a ton of different methodologies, programs, computer applications. But the problem is, because the language is so complex, you can get lost in those complexities. We've got grammar, we've got vocabulary, we've got pronunciation, past, present, future, verb conjugations. And then we also have, other aspects of learning how to speak a new language, like the process itself involves studying, it involves memorizing, it involves going to class or some other type of self-study, but then it also involves practice. And with all of these different moving pieces, if you don't have a good game plan for learning how to speak Spanish or learning how to speak English, then you can often get lost in these complexities. And what happens is you start to waste your time, or you get confused, or you're trying to learn something it's not the right time to learn it yet, and you get frustrated, you give up. Or on the other hand too, I've seen people that are really good students that study and study and study for years and years and years, and they never learn how to start speaking the language. So the importance of this workshop that I've created, 5 Easy Steps, it gives you that game plan. The whole objective behind this is to give you a game plan to help you really do what makes sense for you, to make your studies relevant to what you're doing. So regardless of the program, if you're in a school, if you're doing self-study, if you're using Duolingo, if you're watching YouTube videos, this is going to help you create your own dynamic, personalized game plan so that you get the results that you're looking for. So the objective of today's presentation, this first step here, is my first easy step to learn how to speak a new language is to write about your objectives and your inspiration for learning that language. I just want to tell you a little bit about my experience with learning how to speak Spanish. I started my Spanish career something like 25 years ago when I was a high school student. I later studied in the university. I've done quite a few full-on immersion programs where I actually moved to a different country and fully immersed myself living with native host families and studying. And you can pretty much name the software program out there. I've tried it. I've done Rosetta Stone, Duolingo, Babbel, and dozens of others that are not quite so prevalent. And so there's all these different approaches, right? So I like to kind of share my opinion of what works well and what doesn't work. High school programs and university programs, in my opinion, don't typically give people very good results, at least the ones that we have here in the United States. There's actually an economist that published some research, I think about, I want to say in 2012. And his position was that we should stop teaching foreign languages here in the United States because it's a big waste of time and money. And he did all these interesting studies and interviews and things like that. And he determined that less than 1% of people that study a foreign language in the United States actually learn how to speak that language. And so I disagree with him on, the approach to I don't think the right answer is to stop teaching languages, but I think the better solution is to teach them differently. So there are two primary fields when it comes to teaching languages that are commonly accepted in academic circles. One is called language as a subject matter, and one is called language acquisition. Language as a subject matter is when you're studying the rules and the grammar and the theory of the language. Language acquisition is more of the practice of the conversational approach that essentially looks to replicate the experience of someone learning their first language as closely as possible. So, comparing this guy's study, I've found plenty of other studies, mostly coming out of Europe, that argue for the importance of the language acquisition model. So what we do here in the United States is called language as a subject matter. It's the grammar and the theory. In Europe, they do language acquisition. They start it from a very early age with the students, and they do more of the natural, practical approach of speaking and making mistakes. And in Europe, you know, 80% of people that study a new language learn how to speak a new language. There's nothing different about a European's brain than an American's brain. So it's all in the approach. It's all in the practice. I'm European, you know, by ancestry. My family comes from France and England mostly. So there's no reason why, you know, to say that Europeans are more adept at learning a language because they're European. That's not a valid argument at all. Sally, I bet you're Scandinavian or something like that, right? Like your ancestry.
Sí, mi madre de Norway.
Everybody in the United States is European, so it doesn't make sense to say, oh, Europeans are just smarter than Americans. That's ridiculous. We are Europeans. That's our ancestry. So that would be my argument with, you know, high school and university programs. It's just not the right approach. Immersion programs work really well, but I also think that once you get to more of an advanced level with the Spanish, the challenge with an immersion program for an adult like us is who has the time to just go to Mexico for a month, or, you know, it's very hard to get away from your job and your family responsibilities and things like that. And then software applications like Duolingo, I think everybody here is because of Duolingo. I like Duolingo for a very helpful, practical tool to practice and to build vocabulary. But I think that's what it is. It's a tool to practice. It doesn't really teach you the language. I think it helps you practice the language. So you typically would need to augment Duolingo with some type of class. So I'll take you way back to like 2001 when I first started studying. After high school, I graduated high school. I did a trip to Spain and I fell in love with traveling. And I decided that I wanted to make it my life mission to learn how to speak Spanish. I had a terrible experience. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. I moved to Barcelona. I got on a plane, you know, and I thought, okay, so high school doesn't work. The only way to learn how to speak Spanish is to move to Spain. I'm going to move to Spain. I found a program where I was studying 4 hours a day, really intensive Spanish classes. And I was also living with a native Spanish host family. So they didn't speak a word of English. And Spain is very different from Latin America. I did not find a lot of people spoke English in Spain. When I've traveled throughout Latin America, I've never had a problem finding somebody that spoke English. In Spain, I found people really, if they spoke it, they didn't want to speak it with me for whatever reason. So what should have been this awesome experience was actually kind of a terrible experience. By the way, I just want to open this up because I'm talking a lot and I have no end to my talking. So if anybody has a question or a comment that they'd like to insert, this is an open presentation. So feel free to stop me and let me know if you have anything that you want to say. But anyways, after a couple of weeks of going to 4 hours of Spanish class, where my experience was 4 hours of blah, 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 blah. ¿Entiendes, David? No? Blah, 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 blah. No? Blah, 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 blah. No entiendo. Like, when I first got there, I literally spoke zero Spanish. My 2 years of high school Spanish prepared me for zero Spanish speaking skills. So it was humiliating, you know. I was 18. I had a lot of pride and ego back at the time, you know, and it was just terrible sitting there for 4 hours a day. So I was actually ready to give up, you know. I called my mom, told her kind of what was going on. She said, you know, I'll buy you a plane ticket and, you know, you don't have to suffer like that, because it was, you know, going on 3 weeks of isolation, of not being able to talk to anybody. has anybody had an immersion experience like that before, where you've really gone to a new place where you did not speak the language at all?
Well, when I travel to Sevilla in Spain too, I visited a lot of places, touristy places. Um, the curiosity is that when I speak to someone in the file, I don't remember the word. Uh, when I wanted to speak to someone, for some reason, most of them were from other countries, and no one there speak a word in Spanish. I was in Spain, but the people with I was talking, they don't talk in Spanish. So when I asked something, I had to speak in English. It was a very fun experience.
Cool. So I was super frustrated and ready to give up. I had an offer to get a plane ticket. So I decided to consultar la almohada. Do you know what that means, Sally? Sally, you're muted.
Ahora,
Okay, yeah, I hear you now.
repite, por favor.
Have you ever heard that expression, consultar la almohada?
No.
Do you have any expression like this in English?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
How is it?
So Sally, do you know what una almohada is?
A pillow. Yeah, consult the pillow. Consult a pillow.
What's our expression in English, Sally?
Sleep on it. Sleep on it.
Yeah. So in English, we would say to sleep on it, right? That's what that means. I love this expression in Spanish. That's why I love learning languages, because you can learn like different ways to say things in other languages. That's so much more poetic than to sleep on it.
See.
Yeah.
I'm really gonna have a consultation with my pillow. I love the way that sounds. That was one of the first expressions I learned in Spanish, and I've always loved that. When you really think about it, what's a consultation? You know, I can go to my doctor and have a little conversation, and you know, I'm gonna go have this conversation with my pillow. When I wake up, I'm gonna know the answer. It's cool. So, bravo Spanish for giving us that expression.
See.
I didn't know the expression.
What's that?
I didn't know the expression.
You
but
never
for me, in English, it sounds very funny.
to sleep on it?
I sleep on it.
Yeah, it's like I'm just gonna write my little idea down and then I'll sleep on it. Yeah, it's just an expression to mean to think about something, to give something.
Yeah, I think it also means I'm going to take my time with it. I'm not making a snap decision.
Yeah.
I'll give it some time.
So
yes.
I got off. This was back in the days of payphones. Do you remember payphones?
See.
So I had a payphone. You know, I had to go buy the little calling card, the international calling card for like, you know, 100. This is back when Spain was using pesetas. So I bought whatever calling card, and you know, I hung up the phone on the payphone. I went back up to the apartment, and I decided, you know, I was like, man, if I go home, you know, this is all for nothing, and I'm probably never going to learn how to speak Spanish. So the first thing I did was I got out my piece of paper, a notebook, and I wrote about why I was there, you know, because I didn't want to give up. I'm not one to give up, but I was miserable. So I decided to write down my objectives, and these were pretty much the reasons that I wrote down. So keep in mind, at the time, I'm 18 years old. I just graduated from high school. I hadn't enrolled in college yet. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And these were the reasons that I did know I wanted to learn how to speak Spanish. So my first reason was that I wanted to be able to speak with my neighbors. At the time, I was living in an apartment building where almost every single one of my neighbors was from Mexico or Central America somewhere, for the most part from Mexico. I live in Colorado. Colorado is, you know, almost, it's like, it's only 50% English speakers in Colorado. It's about 30% Spanish speakers. And then 20% is a variety of, you know, Arabic, all these different African languages, French, Chinese. For whatever reason, Vietnamese is the second largest language outside of Spanish, but it goes 50% English, 30% Spanish, 5% Vietnamese. So like there's really no other comparison. So yeah, I was living around all these Spanish speakers. I heard Spanish everywhere I went. I wanted to be able to start talking to my neighbors instead of just the, you know, hand wave, like actually have a conversation. I do really like Spanish women, so I wanted to have a Spanish speaking girlfriend. So that was definitely a major motivation for me to learn how to speak Spanish. And I also wanted to travel mostly throughout South America. I really had this great idea at the time that I was going to buy a motorcycle and drive from Colorado down to the southern tip of Argentina and just see everything that South America had to offer. On kind of more of my professional reasons for wanting to learn how to speak Spanish, I thought about that too, and I just saw this big, huge shift. So in my lifetime, I was born in 1983. Since like 1980, 40 million Spanish speakers have moved to the United States, have immigrated to the United States. So it's turning into really a bilingual country. The United States doesn't have an official language. English is not our official language. So I see like the demographics, 50% English speakers, 30% Spanish speakers. If you really want to be able to do business with everybody, you need to speak both Spanish and English. So I wanted to be able to speak with everyone that I worked with. And at that time, I was also working in construction, which here in Colorado, and I think for the most part all over the US, the construction field is dominated by Spanish speakers. If you go to a job site, you typically do not hear English being spoken. It's Spanish. I also didn't want to work construction forever. So I wanted to have more of a professional resume and put on that resume that I was bilingual. And I wanted to be flexible with where I could work. I always thought it would be cool to, you know, live and work in South America somewhere. So those were my reasons. So I want to stop here with you and open you up to some questions and also invite you to really think about this and maybe share with us some of your reasons for wanting to learn how to speak Spanish or English. Sally, if you want to practice your Spanish, you can tell us now your reasons for wanting, ¿por qué deseas aprender a hablar español, Sally?
Bueno, yo y mi esposo disfrutamos viajar en los países cuando la gente habla español. Entonces, quiero poder hablar español con ellos. Y también para mí es un pasatiempo. Cuando yo retiraré de mi trabajo.
Cuando me jubilé. ¿Jubilé?
Sí, cuando me jubilé.
O me retiré. También.
Cuando me jubilé, yo quise un pasatiempo. Entonces yo empecé a estudiar en la comunidad de educación con una amiga. Y ahora todavía me gusta aprender español y yo he comenzado muchos amigos también.
Has hecho muchos amigos.
He hecho muchos amigos, sí, en clases varias.
Muy bien, Sally, muy bien.
Mi español no es bueno, pero me gusta practicar y me gustó comenzar amigos como todos este grupo.
Me gusta hacer amigos.
Me gusta hacer amigos. Gracias por ayudarme con mi español.
Sí, y recuerda, Sally, se dice me gusta, no me gustó. Me gusta.
Me gusta, me gusta. Sí.
Gustar doesn't work like the word like does in English, where in English we say I like, but in Spanish, when you say me gusta, you're literally saying this thing pleases me.
Sí, me
So
gusta.
that's why gustar conjugates based off of the thing that you like, not based off of you.
Excelente. Gracias.
Good, Sally. Good. Any questions or comments for Sally? No? Okay. Ingrid, how about you? What are your reasons or your objectives with learning how to speak English?
Well, my first attempt to learning English was when I was 9 years, a little girl.
Wow.
Yes, but I had to wait for 9 years more because I can finish my English course in that time. So when I was 18, I complete my course in English because I wanted to have more opportunities in some places different of Latin America to work. I consider that United States and Europe is in United States and in Europe it's very important to talk in English as a second language. Unfortunately, I had a great comprehension, understanding in the language. I think I understand 100% whatever you talk in English, but I would like to be more confident in speaking, to have more fluency speaking the language. It's possible like a native.
Okay. Great. Great. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Ingrid?
Well, Ingrid is my hero because she speaks or is learning 5 different languages at the same time.
In fact, this week has been very difficult for me because there is an important university here that opened presentation this week for people who wanted to practice, and they made along the week presentations in French, English, German, and what else? Portuguese also. Very funny and very interesting, these presentations.
Cool. That sounds fascinating.
Yes.
Nice.
I participate in all of them.
You are very busy.
You're a true polyglot. That's the true definition of a polyglot. Somebody that speaks multiple languages, not 1 or 2. Cool. How about you, Rafaela? What are your objectives for learning English?
Oh, okay. I am a odontology study, and I think in my area is the English, to know English, to speak English is very important. And I am in the last year of my course, and I intend to do a major. And to the major, the English is very, very important. And since I was a child, I like the English. I agree with you, Dave, because in my school, I just learned the rules about English, I learned about the present continuous, the simple present, and I cannot speak. And I think 6 years ago I made a course on 1 year, and I learned a lot because we discussed in English, and it's awesome. So I intend to learn to improve more my English to can speak very well.
Cool. Thank you.
Your English is very good also. Very good.
Thanks, Ellie.
Where are you from, Rafaela?
Brazil.
Where are Ah, from Brazil. Okay.
Yes.
Tá legal. Okay.
How about you, Ismar? Why do you want to learn English? What are your primary reasons for learning English?
I began studying English at school, as you with Spanish, I suppose, but the same thing. Only the basics, only the name of colors, name of animals, verb to be, something like that. My father actually is an English teacher, but he
Oh.
never he never taught us at home. I guess, or I suppose he came back to the home and he wanted to rest. And he never thought our brothers and me to speak English. Some commands, some little commands like bring me that, or hello, or very little phrases I learned from my home. And because of my father have lived in the United States in several occasions, like on vacation, he traveled to the United States to make some extra work and earn some extra money from our home. When he came back, he taught us different phrases like how to say thank you and you're welcome in different languages. So in my home, when we ended our meal, someday he will say merci beaucoup. We answer me pas de quoi, something like that, or spasiba, está, and things like that. When I was a kid, so the languages in some way began to be present in our home, but not a conversational level, none of that. Just little phrases. When I was an adult, I decided it is time for me to really learn English just for the fun of it. I love. I started to become fond of languages, but as an adult, and I think English is the most important one. My father speaks English. My older brother speaks English because of his work, and why not? Could be able to speak English too. I think, and then my goal at first was to be able to read. To be able to read is all that I wanted at that time, to be able to read. And I began reading children's stories. I began reading books that that has a big picture on it and just a little line of story in the at the bottom of the page, and begin through the ability of reading. My goal was to be able to read the National Geographic magazine because I love National Geographic magazine in Spanish. In Guatemala, we have these places called pacas. Pacas. A paca is a place when you can buy some clothes that I don't know if they were donated at the United States, but they are sold here by a low price. For example, you can buy a new shirt in Guatemala for about $20, and at Apaca you can buy it for $1 or $2. But in these pacas, they sell also books in English, of course, because they were donated in the United States. And most people don't pay attention to that because many people here don't speak English. Sorry, I'm taking too long.
No, I was going to tell you, so I think what you're describing, a paca, is what we would call a thrift store in the United States.
Oh, thanks.
We have thrift stores where
Can you write it down?
let's see here.
It's not a second-hand bookstore.
Yes, it's that. No, but the paca the paca I'm referring to is one that you can buy clothes, you can buy different articles, you can buy also books, but not specific about books.
Okay.
Oh,
thrift store
new word for me. Thrift store.
A thrift store would have a variety of things here: clothes,
Okay.
furniture, art, electronics, books.
Oh yeah, that's the one that's the one I talking about. The thrift. Is thrift a word, a verb, or what is thrift specifically?
You know,
Thrift.
that
means
that's
thrift.
a good kind of question. So a thrift store is a store where you can buy these kind of used items. There's an adjective to be thrifty is like to be creative, kind of to make things out of nothing, right? When you start kind of inventing things, like you don't have a lot of resources, so you have to be thrifty in order to create what you're trying to create. So I don't know if that's where the name thrift store, do you know, Sally?
Okay.
Where?
No, but I agree. Thrifty is when you look for ways to save money.
Okay.
By shopping at a thrift store. Maybe things have been used before. But yeah, to try to get the most for your money.
Okay. Thanks. So I'm hoping I'm not taking too much time. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's great.
Okay, thanks. Then the goal for me and the opportunity is to buy some books and to begin increasing little by little the degree of difficulty of those books I'm buying. Then I began with the very basic children's stories, and I began working up and up, like sixth grade level, the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin, something like that, and then progress into novels or other kind of books, and I began paying more attention to. Then began the internet, the YouTube, because I didn't have access to that when I was younger, and then I began being more exposed to the English, so that I can be more able to understand. But still, I haven't the opportunity to conversate. Yeah. My father is still alive, but he doesn't want to practice English. I don't know. Maybe he get tired of it. I have heard him talking with Americans, with Native Americans, like Mormon missionaries. And I noticed that he's fluent, but he's losing his hearing. His hearing now, and he doesn't want to practice language anymore.
You know, it is
And
learning a new language and speaking a new language, especially teaching a new language, is very stressful on your brain. And as a language instructor, when I get done with class, I don't even, you know, I don't want to speak English, or I just don't want to talk anymore, you know. So I can relate with your dad. I try to speak as much Spanish as possible with my son so that he learns how to speak it. But it's hard, you know, and I get tired, and I just don't want to speak my second language, you know. So cool. So
yeah.
great. We've talked about your objectives. We're going to come back to this in a second. So this is what I did when I was consultando la almohada. And I talked myself into staying in Barcelona and not coming back home early. The next thing I did was I started writing down like the daily dialogues that I was having, or that rather I needed to have with people, because I kind of figured out what I was learning in my classes, despite the fact that I couldn't really understand what my teacher was talking to me about. It wasn't what I wanted to be learning, you know. It was that grammar-based approach where she was teaching verb conjugations, which, you know, that's all fine and dandy, but it wasn't helping me with my daily interactions. So remember, I was living in a new country. I was 18, and this is essentially what I was doing on a daily basis. I was shopping, not necessarily full-on clothes shopping or something like that, but you know, you have to go into a store, buy a snack, buy a bottle of water, you know, you're buying stuff constantly. I was also ordering food a lot. I was going out to eat at Spanish restaurants on a daily basis and having to sit down, you know, and have a dialogue with the waiter to get the food. And I can't tell you how many times, because the way that I was ordering food is I would get the menu and then I would just point to something on the menu. I didn't even know what I was ordering, you know. This was Spain. They didn't have English menus, you know. The menu was in pure Spanish, and I didn't know what it was, so I just, you know, I would point to something. And in Spain, especially in Barcelona, being right on the coast, they eat a lot of seafood. And I am I like seafood, but I'm very picky when it comes to seafood. It's funny because I'm not a picky eater, but if it's seafood, I have to know like the name of the fisherman that caught it and where it was caught and the exact, you know, the bait that they used. I'm very, very nervous because I've gotten sick from it before. So I'm very cautious when it comes to seafood. So I ordered stuff that I just couldn't eat, and I would have to, like, out of embarrassment, I would pay the check and walk next door to the next restaurant. And then, you know, eventually I realized that a lot of restaurants had sandwich on the menu. So I knew what a sandwich was. So I ate like sandwiches for like 3 weeks. You know? Ham and cheese sandwich for 3 weeks. And then also, I didn't know anybody, so I was constantly, you know, wanting to talk to people. So how do you talk to people? You start introducing yourself to people, right? You introduce yourself to people, you say what your name is, where you're from, you know, what you're doing in Spain, and, you know, things that you like to do for fun. So that's kind of like what was going on in my daily basis. I got a question. Don't they speak Catalan in Barcelona? Yes, that was another complication. Everybody does speak Spanish, so if you initiate a conversation with somebody in Spanish, they'll respond to you in Spanish. But when they're talking to each other, they're speaking Catalan, so they're not even speaking Spanish. So I wrote down, I started realizing, like, man, I'm so sick of ordering food that I can't eat. So I need to, you know, I got my Spanish-English dictionary out, and I just created this word list of things that I could find on a menu, you know. So the result of now kind of shifting my focus, you know, reminding myself why I was studying Spanish, and then creating these little dialogues of how to buy things, how to order food, and like the words that I needed, the words, phrases, and questions I needed to introduce myself to a new person was phenomenal. And as next thing you know, I actually, about a week after that, I actually had a relatively fluent conversation with somebody in Spanish for the first time. I had been out at night, kind of bar hopping, and I was trying to practice my Spanish. So I was just walking up to people and introducing myself to them. Hola, me llamo David, soy de Estados Unidos, estoy aquí para aprender español, podemos practicar. And I was just doing that over and over and over again, And next thing you know, it was towards the end of the night. I decided to go back home. I got into a taxi, and it was about a 15-minute ride from, I was in this part of Barcelona called Las Ramblas, which is like this kind of outside walking mall type area, lots of bars and restaurants and shops and things like that. And it was a 15-minute ride back, and I was talking to the taxi cab driver the whole time. And I got out of the cab, I paid, I walked upstairs, and I laid down, and I was starting to kind of drift off to sleep. And then all of a sudden, like, I jumped up out of my bed, and I realized that I had just been speaking Spanish to that guy for 15 minutes. Like, I didn't know that I was doing it at the time. Like, it hit me later that I was actually speaking Spanish. And from that point on, I was able to start speaking Spanish. So where I had been a week earlier ready to quit because I was so frustrated, a week later I started speaking Spanish with people, and it completely changed my life. So the whole purpose of this activity for today is to really teach you exactly what I did that completely changed my life forever when it came to speaking a new language. It is 11 o'clock, so I know this meeting was scheduled from 10 to 11. I'm actually in a very interesting situation where I don't really have anything else to do for the rest of the day. So I'm in no hurry. I can stay on. If anybody else wants to stay on, feel free to stay on. Does anybody need to jump off now? No? I'm almost done with this presentation, so this shouldn't take too much longer. So, this is what I did, and this is what I would recommend that every single person do, regardless of your level with Spanish or English. If you want to take it to the next level, get a notebook, okay? Any notebook, and I like to divide mine into several different sections. The first one is to write those reasons and objectives, and even that you can write down in your notebook, but I like to put it on my wall right in front of me, like right in front of my computer where I spend most of my day working. Because if you're constantly kind of thinking why you're doing something, it's just great for motivating yourself. Most people aren't learning Spanish just so that they can speak Spanish, right? You're learning Spanish so that you can do A, B, and C. And that's just incredibly powerful to remind yourself. If you ever get frustrated or start losing your motivation, to remind yourself, hey, you're not learning English. You're trying to open a new business and make money by selling your products and services to English speakers, right? You're not just trying to learn Spanish. You want to learn Spanish so that you can buy that motorcycle and drive from Minnesota to the southernmost tip of Argentina and have these amazing adventures on the way and feel safe and comfortable while you're doing it. Another real cool section is to write about your dialogues. I like this because this is the way to make it personal and to make it relevant to you. There's no such thing as the perfect Spanish program or the perfect English program. Everybody learns differently. Every program is designed for different results in mind. And at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, you're going to have to personalize it for you, okay? So I found by writing the daily dialogues that I would have with somebody was just a great resource to learn exactly what I needed to know in order to be successful. Another thing is vocabulary. Vocabulary, vocabulary, vocabulary. You don't need to study grammar and theory and rules. You know, you honestly don't need to study that. It'll fall into place eventually. What you need is vocabulary. You know, the number one thing for learning a new language is vocabulary. And so, like, you know, I can put that into perspective for you. Let's just imagine you don't speak a word of English, you know, but you're hungry and, you know, you want some pizza. So you look up in the dictionary. I think pizza is probably a bad example because they say pizza everywhere, but you look up in the dictionary and you find the word is pizza. So then you find a pizza restaurant and you walk in and you just say, you don't say, you know, you walk in and they say, "Hi, how can I help you?" And all you say is pizza. Guess what? You're going to get a pizza. I can promise you, you are going to get a pizza. They're not going to say, "Get out of here, get lost." You know, you're getting a pizza. And all you did was, you know, the correct way to say that would be to say, "I would like to order a pizza." But if you walk in and you just say pizza, no hablo inglés, pizza. Like, they're probably going to give you a pizza. I would be willing to bet $1 million. So vocabulary, just learn words. If you focus most of your time on just studying words, the rest of it just falls into place. Another thing to learn is if you can get just 2 or 3 conversation starters that are culturally relevant and acceptable that you can use in just about any situation to help you just start. Like, the hardest part, in my opinion, I think, with learning how to speak a new language is that you have to start speaking that new language, and that means you're going to be talking to strangers. Most people have a lot of social anxiety around speaking to strangers. We have this ingrained in us from the time that we're little kids that we're not supposed to talk to strangers, right? It's just strangers. Fully ingrained into us. Here in the United States, we have a saying, stranger danger. If somebody, you know, that we teach to our little kids because we don't want our kids to get kidnapped. Unfortunately, that stays with us for the rest of our lives. And once we're adults, you know, we don't really need that because, you know, I seriously doubt anybody's going to kidnap me. So, but I've still psychologically, I've got that ingrained in me that talking to strangers is dangerous. So it's very hard to start new conversations with strangers. So a way to fight that, this is psychology 101 right here. The best way to combat that, think of 2 or 3 different conversation starters so that every time you hear somebody speaking English, you just say that to them automatically, right? And next thing you know, you've started a conversation. And then I'm big on personal reflection. So I always have another section in my notebook that's just dedicated to personal reflection so that if I get myself into a situation where I have a conversation with someone, I can write about that. You know, I write about what went well, what didn't go well, what I need to learn in order to make it go well the next time. And so that's a really cool aspect of this too. So you're constantly reflecting on your progress. And I like this too because it's so often that people focus on what they don't know. Like, Sally, I've been hearing you speak Spanish today, you know? You speak a lot of Spanish. Your Spanish is great. Mistake? Sure, you make mistakes. Ismar, you speak wonderfully. Ingrid, Rafaela, all of you speak wonderfully. And you're all making mistakes, but you're all speaking wonderfully. And I speak Spanish perfectly, and I make a million mistakes. And I've been talking to you in English. And do you know how many mistakes I've made in my own native language since we've started having this, like, when you're just talking, you stumble over your words and stuff like that. So it's so easy to focus in on those mistakes. But what I like about doing this personal reflection is when you actually start writing about the real conversations that you're having, you're going to be surprised at how successful you really are. Like, to be able to, you know, give us those reasons for learning how to speak Spanish in Spanish. You know, you talk for a couple of minutes there, Sally. That's fantastic, you know? And so when you actually get in the habit of writing, I spoke Spanish for 10 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. that's a lot better than what sometimes as you're speaking Spanish, you know, you're kind of thinking, oh, I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to say that. No. It doesn't matter. Who cares? You just spoke for 10 minutes straight. Like, congratulate yourself for that. So I think the personal reflection part is a really important aspect of this. Any questions on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Me?
Go ahead.
When you write your dialogues, you write the questions and the answers too?
Yeah, I'm actually going to give you an example here in a second. So.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So start writing. This is the third step. So you've got your notebook. You broke it down into sections. So start writing. I always start with my reasons and objectives. This is just a quick thing for you here. I split it into my personal and my professional reasons. Organize it however you want to, but I like this way of organizing it for me. And you can always go back to this, and you can always add to it later. You know, you want to add as many reasons or objectives for learning the new language as possible, so that if the time ever comes where you're like me, where you're ready to give up, where you're like, man, this is impossible, I can't do this, you go back and you look at those reasons, you're like, oh yeah, I'm not giving up. Okay, so the dialogues, to elaborate a little bit on what you're asking, make these real. Make these real, make these real. Don't just make stuff up here. I can't tell you how many times I have classes with my students, you know, where they just answer my questions for the sake of answering the question. And I hear them say stuff like, I had a class the other day with somebody that was saying how she travels to South America all the time, because that was my question. ¿Viajas por Sudamérica mucho? Sí, viajo mucho. And so then I stopped her and I said, so I just asked you if you travel in South America all the time. Do you really travel to South America all the time? No, but I was just answering the question. I was like, don't, you know, if you're lying to me, that's not helping anything, you know, like, make it real. So write your real conversations that you're having with people. And the cool thing when you start doing it, it's going to customize your approach to learning the language to make it relevant to you. So is anybody here a doctor? Nobody's a doctor. So imagine I start teaching medical Spanish today. You know, and I give you an hour-long class on medical terminology in Spanish. You know what's going to happen? You're going to get bored, and you're going to be like, stop it. Like, just stop, you know? You won't even say it. You're just going to hit the button, leave meeting. Then you're going to go online and give me a bad review, you know? Because I didn't make it relevant to you. You didn't get anything because you don't care about medical Spanish, you know? So you have to make it relevant to you. And I've tried to create when I created my Spanish program, I work with adults that are looking how to speak in their community, that are learning how to speak at work, and that are learning how to travel. So I try to cover those areas as best as I can, but like teaching Spanish for work, that's one of those things. It all depends on what your job is. And I don't work 100% with doctors. I work with people that do everything. So I can't really teach that so well, you know, as much as I would like to. So this is where you have to do it yourself. You have to learn what you want to learn. And it just makes it practical, you know. You're actually learning real conversations that you can start having. You practice it on your own. And then the next time you're in that situation, bam, you're doing it. And you're like, oh, wow, cool. This is so cool. So here's just like one example, right, of a dialogue. So imagine, you know, I've got that dream of marrying the Spanish-speaking woman, right? So I wrote my imaginary dialogue with the woman that I'm having dinner with, right? So in English, this is what it might look like, right? So I say, hi, honey, how are you? And my wife responds, I'm good. What do you want for dinner? And I say, I'm hungry. I want a steak. And she says, oh, do you want to drink wine with that? I say, yes, good idea. Thanks. I love you, right? Oh, I love you too. Okay. So then you start to translate it, right? So how do you say, hi, honey? Hola, amor. How are you? ¿Cómo estás? Right? Estoy bien. ¿Qué deseas para la cena? Oh, tengo hambre, deseo un bistec. ¿Deseas acompañarlo con vino? Sí, buena idea. Gracias. Te quiero también. Now I've got a cool dialogue that I can start studying. And, you know, then you're starting to create these connections in your brain of what a conversation looks like. So when you're in that situation, it's just more likely to come out naturally for you. Okay, so yeah, does this answer your question, Ingrid, of what a dialogue? It would look like a back and forth kind of questions and answers.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to go now. I really appreciate for your time.
Okay.
And thanks for the lesson.
Yeah.
And see you later.
Ismar, I'd like to invite you just to send me an email.
Okay.
At the end of this, I'm gonna send you guys a couple of worksheets that you can download that'll kind of help you with this process too. So if you send me your email address, I'll send you the worksheets. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to send you by chat. Thanks.
All right.
See you later, guys. Nice to meet you.
Okay. So one thing is you can kind of to do these dialogues, you can you know, do it based off of whatever you think you might be talking to people about. But this is also another really cool thing about modern technology. This right here. Go to your text messages and look at the last conversation that you had with someone via text message, right? Or go to your emails and look at the last email chain you had between you and your boss, or you and a customer, or something like that, you know? And then you've actually got, like, you don't have to make this stuff up, because we do it all the time. Go into Facebook and look at the last 10 messages that you posted to Facebook, and then start translating those. And these are great ways for you to start with your dialogues. Mm-hmm. And it's all going to be real, and it's all going to be relevant, and it's all going to be practical, because you're already having those conversations. So you don't need to learn what your teacher is teaching you, right? Or what the book is teaching you. You need to learn what you're actually talking to people about. So it's a completely different way to think about learning how to speak a new language, but I can promise you, this right here is so powerful. You'll be, you'll be speaking fairly fluently so quickly if you start doing this, you know? All right. The next thing to do is to develop your vocabulary list, right? So you keep another section in your book that's just dedicated to vocabulary. There's 1,000,001 different ways to do this, but one way, you know, I'm very organized, so I like to make it relevant to things. So like, these are kind of categories that I think everybody needs to learn in whatever language that they're learning. If you're traveling to a new country, you have to learn food. Like, if you want to eat, you have to know food. You don't want to be like me going and just putting your finger out on the menu, you know? Like, you want to know what you want to eat. So food, that's just survival skills. I put home as a category because this is a really cool way to integrate Spanish or English into your daily life. So I'm a really big fan of these things. I don't know what they're called in Spanish, but we call them sticky notes in English. Sticky notes, you know, papeles adhesivos, or I don't know. But like, if you look around my office, like look up on my whiteboard, I've got them all over the place. If you look on my desk, look, I've got them all over the place. All these little sticky note reminders of things that I have to do or what I've got going on. But I like sticky notes because you can start labeling things in your surroundings. So literally, like, Sally, look around your room right now. Do you know how to say everything that you see in your room? Like, I'm just looking, you've got a lamp, you've got a desk, you've got a door, looks like you've got books, you've got... So like, get a sticky note and literally put it on every single thing that you can see right now in the language that you're learning. Because there's this subconscious thing that happens in your brain when you don't understand your surroundings. It naturally will put you on edge. And so if you don't know how to say wall, if you don't know how to say floor, if you don't know how to, you don't know that that's bothering you, but it's bothering you. And so this is a cool thing, like for the home in your office, you can put these in your work, you start putting these sticky notes around, you know, like just get your dictionary out and everything you look at, label it. And then you're going to start constantly reminding yourself of how to say it in Spanish. And then next thing you know, you're starting to internalize that. And that just kind of puts you at a state of ease. So that's pretty self-explanatory for home, office, and work. Things that you like. The number one thing that you're going to talk to people about in your new language is things that you like. You know, that's what everybody talks about. And it's fun to talk about things that you like, and that's how you make friends. And so when you start talking, you know, memorizing how to say the things that you like, it's going to help you make conversations with people. And then the last two, your daily activities and your hobbies. So as you're going about your day, you know, do you know how to say to brush your teeth? Do you know how to say to go to sleep? Do you know how to say wash your hands? Do you know, like, all of your daily routine activity, like write a passage about what you do every day from the time you wake up, like on a typical day, in as much detail as possible in your native language, and then start looking there. And can you say all of those words in Spanish or in English in the language that you're trying to learn? If you can't, write them down, look them up, you know? And that's just going to help you so much with your vocabulary. And those are the things that you talk about. You can make this relevant to yourself, you know, if you have other things that you're, you know, this is my suggestion, but make your own vocabulary list. Let's see here. We've just got a couple of more of these. So here's what I think, like for me to practice Spanish with people. These are questions I can ask every time I hear somebody speaking Spanish. No matter what the situation is, no matter where I am, these are all safe questions that are probably going to open up a new conversation. Hola, me llamo David. ¿Podemos practicar español? I got in the habit of doing that when I lived in Argentina. From day number one, because I moved to Argentina, this is way after my Spain experience, and I was living in Argentina, and it was just fantastic. Every place I went to a coffee shop to order coffee and have a little media luna to start the day off, you know, and if I saw somebody that looked like they weren't really busy, I would just walk up and introduce myself. Hola, me llamo David, ¿podemos practicar español? And probably out of the 1,000 or 5,000 times, I'll say I've probably said this 5,000 times, you know? I've probably started 4,999 conversations based off of this, you know? Like maybe one time somebody said no, you know? Like it's just, people aren't gonna say no to this. In my experience, you know? I would be very surprised, Ingrid, if you walk up to somebody and you were to say this to somebody in English, hi, I'm Ingrid, can we practice English? Like, what would your natural response to that be, Sally?
Oh, sí, absolutamente.
Yeah, of course, right? Like,
¿Cuándo empezamos?
Yeah. Honestly, that's most people are inherently nice and sociable people and like to talk to other people, you know. We're social creatures. So if you do it the right way, you're probably, you know, keep in mind, like if somebody's running through the park with their headphones on, you know, you probably don't want to say, hey, let's practice English. Like, you know, that's not going to work out very well for you. But in the right situation, it's going to work for you almost 100% of the time. And then once you get the conversation started, these are 3 questions that I find start a happy conversation. ¿Qué te gusta para divertirte? In English, it would be, what do you like to do to have fun? Or what do you like to do for fun? Psychologically, everybody likes to have fun. And everybody likes to talk about what they like to do. So these questions are designed to get like the conversation's going to start, and it's going to start with the right energy and the mood. The next one, ¿cuáles son tus intereses? What are you interested in? And the last one, ¿qué te hace feliz? What makes you happy? All three of these questions, really all four of them are I study a lot of human behavior and psychology and stuff like that. And these are all designed to get a winning conversation started. You will not get told no, and you will more than likely start making friends with native speakers of the language you're studying everywhere you go. Sally, you know, it's hard right now because we're under social isolation and lockdown right now. But you know, like when like if you go someplace in Minnesota where people are, where you know that there are Spanish speakers and you hang out for a while, you know, like I promise you, go do this right after this class today, and I promise you, you're gonna come back next week and say, hey, that was awesome. You know, I can promise you.
For me, these questions are helpful too because they use the pronouns. And you know, right away when you're trying to speak a language like this, I know their pronouns. I'm not sure where they go, and so on. So it kind of gives me a framework.
Cool. Yeah, that's the thing, is to start a conversation, especially with a stranger, people are always nervous, you know? So with this first question, by introducing yourself first, it takes away that nervousness. You know, do you guys, like, I don't know if it's like this in Venezuela or Brazil, but here in the United States, like, I'm going to say this to Sally, and I bet she laughs right now. You remember, like, your last high school dance or middle school dance? You know? Like,
Sure.
People, when they first start playing the music, you see all the boys on one side of the room and all the girls are on the other side of the room, and they're all like, you know, I can only speak from the boys' perspective, but all of us guys are sitting around like, oh man, I want to ask that girl to dance, but everybody's looking, and it's going to be so embarrassing. But then as soon as somebody finally breaks the ice and one couple starts dancing, everybody else joins in, and then it's just magic, you know? The exact same thing applies here. Once you break the ice, it loosens the other person up and you can start the conversation. So if you want to practice Spanish, or if you want to practice English, guess what? You have to be the person to break the ice, because nobody else is going to come up to you and ask you if you want to practice Spanish. Nobody else is going to come up to you and say, hey, can we practice English? You know? But if you do it, you're going to get positive results. All right, last little bit, personal reflection. And we can just kind of open this up to any questions or comments, but I kind of talked about personal reflection earlier. Just have a section where you're writing, you're revisiting your experiences with English and Spanish, and really make sure to highlight your success stories. You know, I can't stress that enough. People tend to focus on what they don't know versus on what they do know. And that's just setting yourself up for failure. But if you focus on what you do know and you focus on the positive experiences, you know, write down the names of your English speaking friends, write down the names of your Spanish speaking friends, right? You know, like if you follow this advice and you go out and you introduce yourself to somebody in the next week, write down what happened, you know, just write about it. You know, how did you feel before doing it? Oh, I bet you're going to say, I felt terribly nervous. How did you feel once you did it? Oh my God, it was so much fun. I can't believe how easy that was. Like that. And then it's a great way just to kind of reinforce what you're doing, why you're doing it, and the positive parts of the experience, because it's not easy, you know, it's not hard. It's not easy. It's challenging. It's a long process. And just, this is a great activity. Creating this Spanish journal or this English journal is a great way for you to kind of get centered around what you're doing, why you're doing it, and make sure that you're successful with it. So, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about this information? Was this helpful for you? Like, how helpful was this?
Yes, I already do some some things like this. For example, I try to make stories on my notebooks in the different languages that I have learned. Sometimes I started a story in English, later I continue in Portuguese or in Italian. This has been very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I notice improvement.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. Mm-hmm.
And I love writing stories. I used to write poems, and I would like to write poems in English too,
Mm-hmm.
or stories for kids.
Mm-hmm.
In the
And
future.
your writing on your blog, on your website is in English. Do you also have writing on your website in Spanish or of the other languages? I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I saw that you had several entries in English.
Yes, most of the time I write in English or Spanish.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I hope to write in Italian and Portuguese fluently very soon.
Oh.
Is the steps? What is this,
Yeah.
baby?
So I just shared with you a worksheet.
Oh.
This is the worksheet that goes with this lesson. So this is a workshop that I have. It's a 5-part series. Okay.
Okay.
And so I've actually got a book that accompanies it, 5 Easy Steps. That you can get it on Amazon. I don't know if you can get Amazon in Venezuela or in Brazil, but I can send you the digital copy of the book for, like $10 if you want to. I sell it online for $20 for the physical copy. Let me see if I can find it. I'll be right back.
Sally, one question. There's an expression in English when in informal English when you want to say you don't understand nothing.
You don't get it?
Anything.
You say,
No.
I don't get it. Is that what you are referring to?
Does it in an informal way or formal way?
Am I talking about when I don't understand something?
Yes, in English. How do you say that?
I just don't get it. I could say, I just don't get it.
Okay.
David, is there something, another way you would say that?
Yeah, there's plenty of, it's
Yeah.
100% acceptable to say I don't understand. I don't
Or you
know.
could say I'm totally in the dark. I'm totally in the dark. She's talking about more informal way to say it.
I don't
and total in the dark.
I am totally in the dark. I don't get that at all.
You can also say it doesn't make sense.
Yes, yes.
Because in Spanish, we had a very funny expression to that. No entiendo ni papa.
No entiende ni papa?
Ni papa.
I don't even understand a potato.
Oh, I'm writing that down. No entiendo.
Yes. No entiendo ni papa. When you don't understand nothing at all.
Yeah. Very interesting.
You can use that for other, like no hablo ni papa de español. Like I don't speak a potato of Spanish.
Oh.
Sí, también podrías
when you
usarlo.
can't do anything at all, you say ni papa.
Entiendo ni papa.
No entiendo ni papa.
So yeah, I just wanted to show you that these are the books that go along with this this series of presentations. I don't think you're going to be able to get it in South America though. So if you're interested, I can send you the digital copy of it. And yeah, I can do some more of these workshops. I can do the next step next week when we get back together, or anybody else is welcome to present something too. You know, I'd love to kind of open this up for more of an interactive experience for everybody. That way we can all learn together.
Okay. I have some ideas.
Cool. I do just have one other special announcement for you. This might be good for Ingrid and for Rafaela. I do have an advanced English class that I'm going to be starting on Monday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. So if you want to take your English to the next level, doing some real conversation classes with me would be a great way to do that. It would be a good idea to do an evaluation just to make sure that it's the right level for you. But I think, you know, based off of the conversations that we've had, that either one of you would be great for doing that class with me. So I put my the link to my website there in the chat as well. So please visit the website and take a look at the process for signing up. For English classes, I typically charge $400 US dollars a month. I don't know what the conversion rate is like for Venezuela and for Brazil, but for being part of this group on Duolingo with me and coming to the practices, just let me know, and I can maybe give you some special pricing considerations, because I do know that there's sometimes the US dollar getting converted into the Brazilian, or using Brazil. You use bolivares in Venezuela, right? Yeah.
Yes, but lately we had almost paid in dollars.
Yeah, so I don't know, you know, whatever the price is or whatever it converts to, just know that I'll work with you on that if you think you could benefit from some real classes with me. I'd love to work with you. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we take off? Did you like this format today? It's a little, I know it's way different than what we've done in the past.
Yes, very dynamic.
Es muy útil.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I like so much this class. It's helped me a lot.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. Cool. Well, very good. I will see you all next Friday. Nos vemos viernes.
Okay,
Ciao, ciao.
see you soon.
Que te va bien.
Bye.
Adiós.